So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Paul Adepoju, and I'm the community manager for the ICFJ's Pamela Howard Forum on global crisis reporting. And so I really want to thank you very much for being a part of this session today. And I'm glad that you've been able to make out time to be part of this conversation. Wherever you are joining us from, I would like you to actively engage with us. If you are here on the Zoom platform, please use the chat box to let us know your name and where you are joining us from. Probably you can also tell me a little bit about what you do and what would be of particular interest to you regarding the conversation today. And today we are looking at artificial intelligence journalism and how this tool can be applied in the context of crisis reporting. A lot of, I don't think there's a journalist that wouldn't have heard the word artificial intelligence in the past couple of weeks, because we've been talking about it over and over again. You've probably had that conversation in your newsroom, and you've also probably had and tried your hands on some of these new ChatGPT tool that is taking various industries and sectors by storm. A couple of weeks ago, we also had a session on ChatGPT in order to answer the question of whether journalism is threatened by this tool or not, and how journalists, the various case in point use context that journalists can make use of this tool for. And we really did a lot of demonstration. We had a special guest, and it was a quite extensive session and quite eye-opening that saw the record number of individuals attending that session. But today, we are taking a little bit step back and not addressing the issue of artificial intelligence from a technology tool point of view, but as a practical session that looks at how we can actually use these for our day-to-day activities. Even though I'm the community manager for the International Center for Journalists, I'm also a freelance journalist. I write articles and I conduct interviews. And since we've been hearing about artificial intelligence, I've also been personally looking at which ones I can use my hands on and which ones I can try out. So I would like to argue to actively engage with me. What are the artificial intelligence tools that you know of, and which ones have you personally make use of? Can you do that in the chat box while I load my screen? So today what we are just trying to do is I'm going to show you my own current tool set that I'm using. And if you are struggling to actually have a go at artificial intelligence tools, and I hope this session will guide you and put you in the right frame of mind on what to do. Yes, thank you very much. I'm really happy that we have individuals that have already started using one or two tools, and I think Grammarly is a very popular one that you don't even have to be a journalist to use it. Several others, if they are writing a letter, people are using it. So there are now artificial intelligence applications for every stage of the journalistic process. It is unbelievable how rapid the space of artificial intelligence, especially in the context of journalism, has spread in the last couple of years. And in the last couple of months, we've seen accelerated pace. And a few days ago, I was watching a news production, a TV production on YouTube regarding this subject of artificial intelligence. And something became really clear. It looks like these tech companies have been preparing and researching quietly and individually, building up to this moment. And when ChatGPT was released, everybody just started coming out with what they've been preparing for years. So one of the things, please, that I also read a report that said AI in journalism, an editor's work can be automated. 9% of what an editor's work is currently can be automated by artificial intelligence, while a reporter's job can be actually automate a reporter's work by 15%, and which to some extent answers the question whether we can see artificial intelligence actually taking up our role in one capacity or the other. And in the last session, if you attended, our conclusion was that artificial intelligence, journalists that use artificial intelligence may not replace journalists, but journalists that use artificial intelligence, that know how to use artificial intelligence, may be better positioned in the industry than those that do not know artificial intelligence. Now, so like I said, AI, artificial intelligence is everywhere. And interestingly, the first way you will know whether artificial intelligence, one of the ways that you can see it in play is what to check out for on social media. If you're active on any of these social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and or any other platforms out there, you would realize that you are, or even Instagram, you will realize that what you are seeing is different from what the person that is next to you is seeing in his or her or their field. And the reason is this: artificial intelligence on these platforms already been deployed to better understand you as a user and now present you with the kind of content that they believe you actively engage with, that they believe they like, and a truer representation of what your interest is. And if you're able to come to terms with that, then the next thing you can now do is how do you more effectively leverage these ingrown technology or tool or artificial intelligence on its own to better serve your role, your purpose as a journalist. For instance, if you are a journalist that is covering climate, you are covering environment, you are also, the way you can actively let this AI know that you are only interested in this subject is to actually start showing it what you are looking for. Be intentional about seeking out. You can start your process by actively following the right handles that the reputable organizations, institutions, and stakeholders in that ecosystem. You can, for instance, if you are starting a new Twitter page, you are going to, or some other social media interests, pages, you are going to actually select some of these interest groups that are of interest to you. And by the time you do that consistently, the AI knows that, okay, this person is interested in this line and of content, and it feeds you that kind of content. And so that is a way to see it. It also is something that if you are seeing yourself, if the algorithm is suggesting cat videos to you, if the algorithm is suggesting vacation stuff to you, it suggests that probably it believes that that is the kind of content that you actively engage with. And okay, I was just taking a look at the conversations. I think we are making progress. So back to the slides that I have for you. So even YouTube, I think YouTube is a true picture, is a true depiction of what I'm trying to describe here. If you've watched a video, let's say you've watched a documentary or a clip on environment, then the next thing you do something on floods or food or any other issue. By the time the algorithm will be suggesting similar videos consistently. And all these social media outlets, they've also partitioned and divided their interfaces into sections that gives you these kind of content in different categories. For instance, you can be looking at documentaries, you can be looking at news that are actually in this line. So the goal of what I'm trying to say is that without you even actively seeking out all these advanced tools, you can actually make your social media pages to actually feed you these actively relevant subjects to you. So please, I believe that algorithms are learning what you like or spend more time on, and are recommending more of such, and which means you have to be intentional about the kinds of content they seek out. And so one of the things I'll suggest is that you should probably, if you separate a personal and work pages. For instance, I have a little girl, and sometimes she uses my computer to watch some of her cartoons. I realized that there was a time that I just left my computer to her, and eventually the next day I was suggested, the YouTube was suggesting a number of cartoons for me that were not relevant to me. So what I did was I just created an email account for her, and she has her own user interface on my computer that doesn't interfere with the kinds of content. So if you find yourself in that situation too, my advice for you is to find a way to separate personal and work pages. So I'm intentionally trying to not to talk about ChatGPT for now, because I wouldn't want us to have a repeat of the previous webinar that we had. So one of the ways that a journalist can apply AI in your routine work is in the area of transcription. And there are different tools that do that. But the one that I use personally is Otter AI. Now, let me show you what Otter AI is all about. So when you go to Otter AI, just I'm loading the interface now. So it comes out like this. So what it does is that in transcription simply means you've conducted this interview. But before the era of transcription, we often have to listen to the tape that you've just recorded, Sometimes you now have to type that interview out before creating your story from it. There are lots of tools out there. I'm talking about the one that I use personally. So this is Otter AI. There are two approaches to how you can do it. For me, if I want to interview somebody, I do it in real time. Because as it is recording, is also transcribing what I'm saying. So let me show what I'm talking about here. Now, so there's also, we'll get to what, if you look at it, it also, you can actually integrate it into your calendar too, and your personal Zoom account, so that any event that you've registered for, it can actually automatically set up the recording. But this is not for the webinar. So let's just say new recording. So it uses the microphone in your device. And as you see, whatever you are saying gets typed, and everything runs smoothly and effortlessly, just like that. You can now, depending on the account level that you can have 30 minutes package, you can have some restrictions, but it's something I did after using the restriction to some point. I decided to have a basic subscription for 1 year, which is really serving my purpose. So you can see that is how it simply works. So when you can stop it, and it starts its analysis. But this is not just the limit. I know you will say there are other transcription tools. These, if you look at this, these are the audio files, these are the recordings that I've actually engaged with, that I've used it for. Now, it takes time to analyze. You can see the first one that I did is saying it's processing. But I would like to show you one that I did to look at how it plays out. Let's say this one on the H21 vaccine. What you can see is it is actually, this is how everything comes out, and it's searchable. You can actually search it. For instance, if there are any particular words, section, if you conducted the interview and you really want to go back to what that person said at a particular section in the interview, you can just quickly search it. So let's say I'm looking for Ghana. I think Ghana came out in that interview, So you can see what the aspect that concerns Ghana. Then I can just click it. It goes to received information from different vaccine developers. So you can see how that works. It makes your work much easier. Then if it also has this collaborative tool that you can simply use by sharing with your colleagues. Now, another way you can use this tool is if you've recorded that interview, you can also upload recorded interviews, and you can upload recorded interviews, and you can actually segment it. So the way you do it, it has an import section here. which you just drag whatever you have, whatever you need. So this is an interview that I've done before. So I just drag it and drop it here. It uploads, and you can, by the time it's done, it analyzes it, and you are able to actually still access it. So any word, any audio format that you have, it's able to actually simplify it. So I will recommend, because this is something I personally use, I recommend that you, if you really want to try your hands on it, check out the free version before deciding whether you want to actually start paying for it, because I actually used the free version for a while. So that is how transcription works. And there are several other tools too. There are several other tools that also perform similar functions. And one of such is called Trint. Okay, another thing that I want to tell you about that too before I leave is the fact that it's available on multiple platforms. And sometimes I often use my laptop because I try to record as clean as possible. So I have a microphone that I attach to the laptop that is there. But there is also an app version. So which means sometimes when I'm conducting an interview, and I just want to be absolutely sure that what I'm doing is not lost at all. I often also double record on my phone. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is how the full version. This is what it looks like. So you can just scroll. It also has similar features, and you can import your audio files from different platforms. So the next one that I think I will be able to also talk about is this Trint. So Trint is also there for any individual that also wants an option, an additional option other than OTT High. So so it also operates seamlessly, transcripts quickly, and it also converts video files to text, so which is a really cool functionality. So depending on what you want to do, you're able to do that. So another aspect that I think is important is a personal tool that I've also discovered recently, which is Google, from Google. It's called Pinpoint, Google Pinpoint. And the way it works is it serves as, it embeds artificial intelligence, and you're able to deploy it for massive data. When you are trying to, for instance, one of the things, sorry, I'm trying to look at, okay, I think you are engaging yourself around OTT. So I'm moving on to Google Pinpoint now. Is a really good tool that I coincidentally discovered while doing something else entirely. And I'm really surprised that many journalists are not aware of it. So like I said, is a massive research tool. And so what you're able to do with Pinpoint is what I just did with OTT. Now, if you want a free version of OTT, unlimited, this is a free version of OTT, yeah. And in addition to what Otter.ai does, there are several other functionalities that Google's Pinpoint also provides. And so one of it is, for instance, if you want to do what I just did, I've uploaded a similar interview here. And so just click it, and it has already done something similar too. And it's absolutely free. There are no restrictions to this. And yes, so you can actually interact with a document and play it out. It's unlimited and is entirely free, courtesy of Google. And so beyond that, you can also search like I just said, so let's say I'm not okay, let's say I'm looking for Nigeria in this document. You can see if, like I said, if there is anything that popped up during the session that you want to engage with, you are specifically looking forward to. And so that is something that you can actually do. Okay, I remember probably this interview was on mental health, if I'm absolutely correct. Yes, it was on mental health. So if I'm looking at what this person said around depression, I can go to where depression was mentioned 22 times in this interview. So absolutely similar to what Otter.ai does, and is absolutely free for everyone. But like I said, this is not just a transcribing tool. It also has other functions, which is when you want to access and make sense of large data. For instance, some once in a while, we see data leaks when a massive amount of data would be released, would be leaked, and would be given to journalists. Before, I remember when I heard about some of that leaks. I remember when I heard how you see like 20 media organizations working together to go through thousands of documents. So when that happens, it's laborious. Sometimes they have to print the whole document. But that tool, this Google pinpoint tool that I'm talking about, you can actually load all that document and still use the search feature. And let me quickly show you how that works. So I don't have, they have some massive data troves that have already been here. So, but if you are the one providing it with that data, you will just upload all those files in the same way that I uploaded my audio files here. So what you just do is that the data that you have, the documents that you have that are too cumbersome, that you yourself, you know that you cannot go through all of them, you just upload it and you now start looking for whatever might be of interest. For instance, if there is a name of a politician, if there is a specific part of the world that you are interested in looking at how whether that part of the world is represented in the data throw, then you can actually check this out. So, but beyond this, I'm trying to get a sample of documents that can demonstrate how this works. So these particular public health watch organizations too are already using this to actually upload throws of data that they have. And so when there was one USA foreign agent registrations from 1941 to March 2020 by the United States Department of Justice. So this contains over 86,000 documents. Now this is how it works. So let's say I want to access that. Yes, let's say that is what I, as a journalist, I'm trying to interrogate. So, so what I just need to do is, what are you looking for? On this side, we have quick summaries. Probably you can now start scanning, probably a specific, whatever that is of interest to you. These are specific names that are mentioned. For instance, John McCain, 1,043 times, Barack Obama, 815 times. And so by location, if you are you're interested in location as a factor to consider, then you can still analyze it. You know what this way you can just look at overview. Look, you can scan this massive data set, 86,000 documents in one interface, which I think is really, 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 really impressive. So I keep going back to, let's say I'm looking for Nigeria. Let's see if Nigeria is mentioned anywhere in this document. So it's searching. So we can see that Nigeria, it was mentioned in a lot of documents. So as a person, I may now be interested in, okay, how does this how is Nigeria connected to this document? So you can now be taking a quick scan at the available documents. Now you know the stress you would have gone through if you had to manually search through these 86,000 data rows. So that is how it works. And for instance, if you don't want to look at Nigeria, if you don't want to look at regions, if you are looking at probably a specific politician, you can still use that search or specific issues. Let's say environment. Let's say whether if there's anything that has to do with environment in that particular data set. Now you can still see, this is how you can actually simply work with massive data sets in this era compared to before, when it would take a massive number of journalists to actually do this. So if you look at the document, the massive troves of document that we are looking at, it has to do with private lobby organizations between 1941 and 2020 in the United States. So with that, we can actually have an idea of what is happening, and it will not, like I said in a particular session on data, I said the data itself is not a story, but it is going to point you to the story. So if you are looking at this, then it will tell you, okay, this is what you should be looking for. This is what is interest. This is what is of interest. Then you can now begin to ask yourself, okay, you can see what is being mentioned regarding those particular issues. Now, if we want to talk about, okay, there is another example here: waste underground, cheap, fast, and illegal waste carriers. So you can, this is from Lithuania. It has just 9 documents. As you can see, the massive, so that allows you to do it. So if you are an investigative journalist, and this is exactly how you can work on the massive data set and start developing, getting your news stories. Let me scan if you have any question. Please, I forgot to say this. If you want to ask questions, please use the Q&A option on Zoom platform, and I'm going to get to the questions when I'm done with this. So I really encourage you as a journalist to actually play with this tool, this Google Pinpoint, and whatever. Just even it serves as your own archive. You know, as journalists, I classified it under project management because we work with a lot of files. Sometimes we have to interact with a lot of files and documents. Sometimes it becomes extremely difficult to keep track of them, and it becomes laborious to make sense of them. So it's really necessary for you to, I've really found this tool really impressive and very useful for me. And I'm going to say something regarding this similar tool in Achieve. So anything is a research tool for journalists, and I really hope that you can check it out for project management, for analyzing large sets of data. Then you may be asking, okay, where do we get these data sets from? And one of the things that you have to be able to do is that AI will not get you data. AI is still like a robot. To a large extent, it's still working in the sense that you are the one that will tell it what to do. So if you think it's going to help you in creating data, then you may be at risk of one of the things that we mentioned as the weaknesses, as one of the weaknesses of ChatGPT, which is the fact that it sometimes creates erroneous and false comments and documents and data for you. So if you really want to approach this as a purely journalistic experience, as a purely journalistic journey, this is how you can use artificial intelligence by feeding it with data that you know is true. and by also being the one to actually directly and actively tell it what to do. And you shouldn't just expect that, okay, this AI tool is going to find the story for me and it's also going to do the story for me. No, you as a journalist, you should be the one in charge and telling it what you want it to do. Now, good question. So regarding somebody mentioned repeating, that should repeat the aspect of how you upload it. So it's really simple and straightforward. The way you do it is just drag it. Oh, sorry, I think I didn't show. I'm not sure I showed you how that works. So this is how it works. Already, wherever you are, okay. I'm probably the one. There is an add document option here. You can choose whether it should upload from the drive. If you have the document on the file or the audio file or the resources that you have on your Google Drive, or if it's on your computer, you can also click that my computer. And you should, by the time, so this is how you simply upload it. You either select file or you drag and drop. If I want to drag and drop, I use a MacBook, so I just drag and drop it here. So I drop it here and it simply uploads, but I don't want it to upload since I already have it done before. So that is how you do it, to give it some time to process, and that is how you work with it. I hope I've been able to answer your question. Now, so let's go to another aspect of artificial intelligence application. And but if you still need any clarification on any of these two that I've been talking about, please do not hesitate to let me know, and I will gladly go back and further explain how that works. So the next one that I think I should also mention is visual storytelling. Visual storytelling, using artificial intelligence to tell stories visually. And do you know that before, we've already come to terms with the fact that visual multimedia tools are really the way forward for us to be able to effectively tell stories. And artificial intelligence is already playing out in this space. I know many of us already know the tool that is called Canva, but in the last few weeks ago, they also launched an AI version, and they improved the artificial intelligence functionality on AI by introducing or integrating what we call text to image, text to art. Now, so this is how it works, and I'm going to, it's so simple if you have been using Canva before. So the thing I'll ask you to do is text to, you can go from Google, text to image, Canva. You can go from Google and search for text to image on Canva. So the search result comes up, and it goes like this. And let me show you how this works and how easy it is for you to actually use it. Don't mind my internet network. And so while it comes up, I still want to tell you that one of the things that, if I can get it, trust me, you as a person, you can also effectively use all of these tools. So what text to image simply means is that you give a word prompt, you give a text prompt, you give an instruction, and that instruction, it's simply converted into an image. And I'm going to show you how. You can see that I've already signed into my Canva account. So when I search for it on Google, I'm able to just come in right here. So I just said, instead of using it in an existing design, so it will tell you the size of that material that you want to create. Let's just say I want to make it as a presentation. So it comes up like this, and I will look at the chat. So can two people give me an image that you want me to create? Just type it in the chat box, and we are going to see how this comes up, and hopefully, so I'm going to just think of an hypothetical concept and give it an instruction. Now, where this is, oh, okay, I'm seeing, okay. So I'm seeing the number of ideas, but it's very, really slow. My computer is slow today, but we are going to get there. So what it just simply does is that it generates, you describe what you want it to generate. So let's just say, you want a black man among, okay, let's just say two black men in Paris, in front of Eiffel Tower. So let's say just hypothetically. So let's see what it comes up with. So as you can see, we have those pictures. So we have different options. I asked for two black men. As you can see, these one are two black males in front of Eiffel Tower. Now you can ask, how can you apply this? And the way I see it is, if you run a blog, if you normally, before you can see pictures that are specific, if you run a blog, you have to put, when you're working on a story, you need a feature image. So, but because many of these images, you have to pay for them. And a lot of things, a lot of privacy and ethical concerns come into play when you are actually working on selecting images. But I personally believe that if you just want an image for a particular story, let's say you are trying to do a story on, let's say, the fate of black males in Paris, or in France, or whatever context that you want to do. So you can simply use this to generate that image, and you can actually use it as a feature image. You're actually knowing that it's an artificial intelligence and AI generated image. And but you have to put that caveat to actually explicitly not say that this is not a real image. And you can, let's say, okay, you may not, let's say you are looking at a crisis and you are trying to look at it from a crisis perspective. And let's say flooding, massive flooding affecting farmers. Let's say that's a prompt that I want to give it, massive flooding affecting farmers. So let's see what it comes up with. And it takes its time sometimes. So as you can see, if you want to write a story that is about flooding, it is giving us different options. So so that is simply how you can do that. So this is an option. This is another option. This is an option, and this is another option. So even within Canva, like I said, this text to image is already available, and you can easily access it. Another tool that there are lots of them already. I think the simple way you can see them all is to just go to Google search and look for text to image AI. So by the time you search for text to image AI, you are really going to be surprised by the multitude, how extensive, how numerous these currently available tools are. Now, a good question that somebody is asking, is it possible to use such images for graphics in newsletters, newspapers, or presentation without copyright? And that's a really, really good question. And if you remember what I said, we are in previously uncharted territory regarding artificial intelligence. We are in a position where we've not been there before. So, and for now, I think proper attribution is really, really important. And you know, every image, if you want to use an image, you have that description. You have to describe the image. And for now, you can just clearly let your audience know that it was an AI generated image, probably using a particular tool. And we have to keep abreast with what is happening in the industry for us to now be able to interact and properly use these tools. So for now, explicitly describe and state where you got, how you generated that image from. Let the audience be aware that this is an AI generated image. And interestingly too, I think a lot of image repositories are also getting actively involved in this. A few days ago, I realized that Shutterstock, which is one of the platforms image repository, also now has a text to image functionality, but probably if that is generating an image or it is searching, pulling the image in its database together. So we are in uncharted territory, and I believe that laws will continue to play catch up with AI. But as it is currently, as long as you have license to use that tool, or if it's open access tool for you, then you just have to describe what you've used in order to generate that image. I hope that answers your question. So sometimes you may be uncomfortable actually using hypothetical individuals, AI-generated individuals, as we've shown in that picture. And so sometimes you may just prefer it to come out as illustration. Now, the illustration you are seeing right beside these texts, I generated it while putting the slide together. And the prompt I gave was that I want a picture of a journalist that is using computer. I want it to be like, okay, since we are talking about AI is technology and journalists have started to use that technology, that I want a sketch. I want an illustration of what that would look like, and it came up with this. So let me show you how you can do that. If you are not comfortable with using raw picture, the AI generated image, but you are comfortable, you can still use illustrations. Illustrations, personally, I love illustrations. They are really a cool way of visualizing stories. And so the tool that I use for this is this particular tool. It may sound strange to many people, but this tool was also developed by the same company that brought us ChatGPT. So, and that company is called OpenAI. So I'm going to get to that tool via OpenAI so you can see how you can easily find your way there. So, okay, this is DAL-E. So you click it from, so it's coming, and I would now give it, he said that he, so let's say so a painting of 3 girls. Now I'm short of ideas regarding image generation. So let's just say I need 3 girls. What crisis issue? Okay, girl-child education, reading books. So let's say we are looking at your story is on gender education of the girl child. So you'll find a way to a picture of three girls reading books. Let's see how far it can go, science books. No, this is not the image. Oh, no. Unfortunately, it has so I've tried it again. Hopefully it goes this time. If it doesn't go, because I've been using it before, I can easily, yes. So if you want, you can see, this is AI generated. Also, what that text to image feature that I showed you in Canva is also playing out on this DALL-E from ChatGPT parent company. Now you can, if you don't really think, oh, this doesn't look good, which I think I think I'll just use, I prefer an oil painting instead. So I prefer a painting instead of trying to tell it to generate images. So now it's telling me it's busy, but for now, that was one I did. So you can, okay, let me still try one more time. And so it's being used a lot. So let me show you one of the ones I did. There was a story I was working on pregnant women, on pregnancy, female pregnancy. I had staged for a painting of pregnant Black woman. And this was an artistic impression that he gave to me, which I really think is something that really could actually work. So this is how you can actually make use of it. As you can see, there are limitations to the number because it's a very busy platform. There are limitations to the number of times that you can use it. If you are using the free version. And so that was how I got to that. You simply download and you have your image. So I think this can actually better serve as illustration instead of using it as a picture. I'm more comfortable using it as an illustration. So Justina is asking if DALL-E is free. For me, I use it for free. I think it's free for everybody for now, but I know you trust these tech companies that they'll still find a way to monetize. So for now, you can try your hands on what you can actually do. So I'll come back to image, but there is another issue that I think is really important. How to identify story leads. And there are lots of tools out there. In my research, I found out that many of these niche specific tools are not those that you can freely use. And that's why I'm intentional about actually sharing the ones almost anyone can start using. So the most popular tool for lead generation still remains Google Trends. So if you don't know what Google Trend is, so just Google Google Trends, and it's just going to tell you what are the topics, what are the issues that people are actually looking for in different parts of the world. You can actually categorize it based on regions, based on parts of the world where people are from. So now it's trying to tell me what is happening in the UK. So, you can just simply, for instance, if you want to know what is happening and keep abreast, in Africa, I think the crisis that is popping to my head right now is what is happening in Sudan. So Sudan has there's a major crisis that is currently ongoing in Sudan, and so let's see if no. Now let's say in the UK they're having. I'm trying to look at crisis connected issues. So let's say, well, probably I'll have to change it away from the UK. So you can you can navigate you can clearly tell it which part of the world you want people you are most interested in, so that it's going to tell you what are the trending issues in that part of this. Okay, this is the interface that I just click. There is an option there, and so this tells you the issues that people are searching for a lot in that country. For instance, in the United Kingdom, let's say I'm sticking with the UK, and I go to the categories of what are the topical issues that people are actually looking at. And because I largely cover science would be of interest to me. So this is the way you can actually screen it. In the UK, people over the last 24 hours, okay. So now the issues are coming up around Sudan in North Africa. But let's say you can actually interrogate and describe it. Okay, what are you of interest? What is of interest to you? And so that is, I find this to be a really, really effective way to actually understand what is trendy and to understand what people are also interested in doing. So because I've inserted Sudan, I need to clear it. So now I will now go worldwide and look at what people are looking for regarding science. Now, in the past 24 hours, so it peaked in the past. So we've had, you can actually see the interest over time for that particular subject. And so let's say I just want to look at climate change. Climate change as a topic. So you can see the interests globally, climate change as a topic. Now you can start asking yourself, why is the people in Fiji interested in climate change, Nicaragua? You can see the countries that are actually searching for, interested in climate change as a topic over the past couple of days. You can also see the topics around climate change that people are talking about globally. Then you can also interact. Okay, I'm not looking at worldwide. Let's say I'm looking at Nigeria, what is of interest in the area of science, climate change interest in Nigeria. What is the topic that people are talking about regarding climate change in Nigeria? So you can see the popular interest region in Nigeria for climate change is a state called Yobe. And so you can begin to now look at them from different perspectives. We are seeing people interested in the health aspect of climate change, panel report on climate change. So that is one effective way that I personally believe that you can actually use from. And so if you are writing on climate change and you also want to do some illustrations, I did this illustration using this tool that I call Creator Night Cafe .studio. The prompt I gave it was that it should show me an illustration for flooding in an African setting. And it gave me this really nice image. So what I'm trying to say is that the tools free of charge tool is a free of charge tool that I actually used. And the truth about it is why many of these niche specific tools are actually extensive. So a lot of them, for you to get the best out of the features, may require payment. For the ones that are not totally paid, that they have free packages, they may actually limit the number of time that you use it. So which simply means you have to have made up your mind regarding what you want to do, regarding what you want to use it for. And but there is a tool that people have been talking about a lot, that is really, really good, and I decided to pay for it and actually just check it out, which is Midjourney. And Midjourney is a little bit complex. These are the steps that you need to do. Is paid, I think almost like £10, which is like for Midjourney. So these are the steps that you have to take. But like I said, there is none of these tools that you cannot actually easily say, ask Google to tell you how to do it. Now, the way, unlike the other tools, there's an element of basic communication instruction that goes into it. And I just want to show you how this works. So again, everything that we have said that I'm saying is all about you being able to actually decide what you want to do. Everything is not going to tell you, how to, it's not going to generate things out of a thing here. Even if it's ChatGPT that you are using, it is still the one that is going to tell you what you want it to do. So now the way this works is that, you simply, when you're on the interface, you simply give it an instruction but unlike others, you can actually give this one, this probably looks like the most advanced for me. If you can see this, I asked it to create a photorealistic wide shot of a vaccination exercise in a rural African setup. I wanted to have huts and children and health workers. And I also gave it the ratio or the dimension, which is ratio 16:9. And it gave me 4 options. So let's say I want to, I think for me, this third version works really, really well for me. So it's now upscaling it. It's going to upscale it. It allows some forms of communication, unlike the ones I just used, the chat box. And like I said, this is really, really realistic. And I think if you've seen the picture of the Pope wearing a designer dress, they used Midjourney. This tool is called Midjourney. They used Midjourney for that too. Yes, Midjourney for that too. So it uses 2 platforms, Midjourney and of course, but using the Discord platform. So it's really, 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 really good, depending on what you are trying to do. So in essence, the 3 ways that I believe while this generates itself, let me quickly help us recap these tools. So the real way that I believe any journalist that is working on any crisis reporting, these are the ways I think you can do it. The first one is this: let AI know that you're interested in a particular crisis, and have a specific platform for it, probably an email that is registered to an account, a user interface that contains the social media pages, and the platforms that you want to use for, such that your personal searches are not interfering with your work searches. And you can simply use Google Trends. Before, I used to recommend Twitter Trends, but there are a lot of manipulations on Twitter right now that make it limited, that you can't wholly rely on Twitter Trends for reliable understanding of trends. And one of such is that you just see somebody that is trying to promote, sell a product using a particular hashtag, and the more people can easily get an hashtag to the top of the trend list. But that for now is not happening on Google Trends. So Google Trends is still more stable and for now, and it has a lot of it allows you to also look at trends across different subjects, different crises, different genres. So that is why I personally recommend Google Trend. Another thing that I also wanted to do is that to have access to general tools that anybody can use. For instance, if you want to know what is happening, there are some tools that I did not mention that exist, but are really paid. And personally, me too, I can't afford a lot of tools. I cannot be telling you tools I cannot afford. So there are tools that are out there that would also predict trend, but they are too expensive, they are paid. So Google Trend as a journalist, if you can really play around with it, localize it as much as possible, and play around with it, ideate ideas and work with it. Its AI interface is really good enough, and for now gets the job done. So another thing that I think is also important to equally mention is the fact that I've personally seen some levels of inequality in terms of AI and of course data availability. You know, when we talk about investigative journalism, when you see industry leading stories that everybody is hailing, lots of links that publishers in different parts of the world have actually put out, that top quality journalism. And many of this data, if you look at what I shared, many of these data are not available for some countries. While in some countries, you will see data from 1800 to date. They are massive, and you can easily access them, and you can upload them to these AI platforms and get the best out of them. So which means when you don't have access to this data, there's a little or nothing that artificial intelligence can help you with. So which means it doesn't mean you cannot still use them, which means sometimes you have to be the one to actually pull this data together yourself wherever you can get them, upload them to these tools, especially the Google Pinpoint, and start interrogating it and analyzing the data, and you have an ability to actually extensively work with them. But there is a platform that yes, okay, I think the one I was working on is ready. There is a platform that, okay, I'll get there, but let me quickly show you the one that so I chose this image. Now you can still see that I can still ask it to make another variation, or light upscale, better upscale, redo web, but I'm satisfied with what this has been. So it can open in browser. Then my image is ready, and it's an illustration. So we can simply just use this. Before, to get somebody that will do this for you is a lot expensive. Now, I don't know what the future would be for illustration ecosystem, but I still believe that illustrators that are able to still maximize artificial intelligence would always still be relevant, because we believe that this is just basic, and there is a limit to what you can do with basic things. And so I still believe this is not going to threaten illustrators. But like we said, illustrators that are really good at using AI will be better positioned than those that are unable to use AI. Now, so what I'm trying to say is the fact that even though we have this issue regarding access to data, we have international organizations that are massive. And so, for instance, the way you can get there to some of this data, we have international organizations like the World Bank, IMF. They have massive troves of data that you can still make use of, sort of, and get them and actually analyze them. So if you look at, Google has a journalist interface that is really good, and I've just been playing around, playing with these public data. It has a public data service, which is google.com/public data /directory. So depending on what you are looking for, you just scroll down. So so we have So we have this max, we have these, it has its own, so it has its own datasearch.research.google. So let's say you are looking for data on climate change, Africa. Let's just say, so this is a really good way for you to get data, and you can even within it. So those data, you can work with global data that are available for your region, pull them together, look at the trends, then you can plug them into AI tools. Before, when you see large spreadsheets, you'll be discouraged about them, or when you see massive reports, you'll be discouraged about going further apart from what the PR company sent to you. But by just playing around with this tool, you can easily actually say that this is what you are actually looking at. So for instance, on Google's on this platform, you can look at issues like the environment. So let's just say emission. Let's talk about CO2 emission. Now you can see the trend. Already we have this. So they've been able to upload some that you can easily just look at their visualization like this. Other tools that are providing this service are really, you have to actually pay. Then if I really want to just now, okay, I'm not just looking at this, I'm also looking at Nigeria. Does it have a data on Nigeria? Now I can now add Nigeria to it. So you can see my country, Nigeria here. So the kg per 2010. So if I don't want that, if I want something else entirely, CO2 emission. So the world CO2 emission continues to rise. And so those are the available tools. I think it's really worthy for you to actually be aware of. And they are inexhaustible. There are lots of them. And I hope that I've been able to tell you and just get the process started regarding how you can actually work with these tools. And I think some of the questions that some individuals sent in has to do with ethics. And well, like we always say, like I've always said, we are at the curve. One of the things that is really concerning is the fact that we are just starting this AI journey. And these tools will continue to be smarter. They will continue to be much better in being able to do it. And the rules will have to be made around how do we make them. And the only thing that I believe, one of the things that I believe you as a journalist should be aware of is when you are using these tools, is to be cautious and to be open regarding how you use them. For instance, if you're a photojournalist, it would be a disservice for you to project an AI-generated image as one that you actually took yourself. Or if you are a media house and you're using an AI image or AI-generated content, you should always be very open regarding letting your audience know that this is what is happening, this is what we've actually used. And I think another landscape that is quite rapidly evolving, I think somebody also asked is, how do we separate AI tools from AI-generated content from real content? Is the fact that as AI tools are getting smarter, tools for actually detecting them are also getting developed massively. So probably but this is not the focus for this session. You can always look them up, fact checking AI tools, how to detect AI generated images. So lots of tools are coming up, and you can also, I think in the previous session that we had, one of our speakers actually analyzed how you can visually say, describe what AI image is and what AI image isn't. Now, somebody also asked my thoughts on how we believe AI would disrupt crisis reporting. And I think it's a two-way thing. In the first instance, for journalists, personally, I'm really, really excited with the fact that large troves of data that would previously be something that nobody could touch. And so which means insights for crisis reporting that we would have gotten from those kinds of data, because we could not have time to really analyze them. We will now have to, we'll be able to do that by just loading them onto these AI-enabled tools like Google Pinpoint. And summaries, tools that papers, scientific publications that contain really deep insights on complex subjects that the scientists cannot simplify in their complex language publications. We can easily load them into AI platforms, into AI tools that would actually simplify them. And interviews that we've done that went on and on for 1 hour, that we are now reluctant to go back and listen to them over again, by using tools like Otter.ai and several others. We can just simply go back to those things, let these AI tools analyze them, use them to analyze and give us insight into what we are actually doing. And that makes a really good application and makes our job easier. So the landscape will continue to evolve, and we'll always continue to do our best to let you know which ones you should be aware of, how to use them. But like I said at the outset, this is not everything. It's just the beginning of a journey, and from the comment section, I can see that you've gained 1 or 2 things from this session. So thank you very much for attending. And on behalf of the International, to learn more about this session, about this AI and several other things, I encourage you to access resources from the International Center for Journalists. But as take home for those that really waited, I kept this to the end. I know some people will not wait to the end. I have some links for you that summarize. You can quickly summarize. Please don't go if you have gone. You've missed a lot. Now we get to the juicy part. So I'm going to put some links up now for you to be able to access a lot of AI tools and present case in points. So the link I just put in this chat box takes you to the case studies of AI, how they've been applied in different organizations and the names of the tools that they used. Now, another link that I'm putting up tells you the AI tools that are available for local newsroom. So I'm going to put that up too. Please keep these links really nice. So this second link tells you is a database of AI tools that are available for local newsroom. This table will tell you which one is free, which one is not free. I encourage you to really check them out and use them. You will see the type of AI tools that they have. And if you need guidance, if you still need further guidance on any of them, let me know, and I will gladly tell you how to go about it. So those 2 links, the first one is on case studies. Please keep that link and check it out. And the second link has to do with currently available tools. The links and how you can access them are all there. Check them out, enjoy and interact with them, utilize them extensively, share them and decide which ones you are going to use, and hopefully they answer most of the questions that you have. So that is the reward for staying to the end of the webinar. So to learn more about this initiative and several other things that we do, the International Center for Journalists. Please check out International Center for Journalists website on www.icfj.org. And I also encourage you to access IGNet resources and insights about tools, opportunities, and other things. Please check out International Journalists Network's website on ignet.org. And for the last one, I'm going to share some of these resources in our Facebook group. So if you're not a member of the ICFJ's Pamela Howard Forum on Global Crisis Reporting on Facebook, please do not hesitate to join our Facebook group. I just put the link in the chat box. And if you're not a member of that Facebook group, please click it, be part of our community, and I'm going to approve it. I will endeavor to share the links to the resources that I just shared. I endeavor to also put it in our Facebook group in case you are not part of that group so that you can also access it, because I also know some individuals are actually watching this live stream on Facebook. So because of that, those that are watching on Facebook, I will also put these links on Facebook. So thank you very much. It has been fun, and I hope you really enjoyed this session. And we are going to keep interacting. I wish you the best in your journalism careers, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, and bye from me.